So this is week 3 of our Yeah You Did series, where we're learning how to make better decisions with fewer regrets, so that on the other end of things, people around you, when you make this incredible decision, can go, yeah, you did. See, that's how that works. Some of you are going, why is it called Yeah You Did? That's why. So now you know why we call it Yeah You Did. So just to kind of give you a recap of what we've been through so far, I just want to introduce, I introduced this diagram, this high-tech Bible diagram in week 1, and we were talking about how God's will, when we give our life to God, and we say, God, I want to do your will, not just my will, it brings this extraordinary focus to our lives, right? And in a way, what it does is it takes all kinds of other things off the table, including the things that would take us into the ditch. And so there were 2 different ways that we can go into the ditch. One of them is this, both are huge words, but if you break them down, they're pretty easy to get your head around. One of them is dissipation. In other words, when your calling dissipates, your focus dissipates, it leads you into a life of mediocrity. And week 2, we talked about how the quickest path to mediocrity is to give in to fear, right? Because then we don't do the things we ought to do, and all the things that scare us, which end up being the things that are worth the most in our lives. The other side would be debauchery, which is, doing stupid stuff that ruins your life, right? Not just wastes your life, but ruins your life. So what we're going to talk about today is there's more than one way to hit the ditch, right? Just avoiding fear is one thing. We're going to talk today about the power of desire. Desire to lead us astray. The things that we want are the things that we think we want. We live in a consumer culture. A consumer culture that from the moment you're born tells you this: figure out what you want, because you will never be happy until you get it. Figure out what you want, and then organize your life around this pursuit of what you want, because you'll never be happy until you get what you want. Now we're gonna explore that thesis today. Is that a valid pursuit, or something to wrap your life around? Someone may have even asked you that question, right? Well, what do you want? I think it's a good question, but throughout this morning, we're going to end up with a better question that's going to give a better focus to your life, and again, empower you to make better decisions with fewer regrets. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the story of King David, not where we left off last week. So last week, we talked about this shepherd boy named David, who wasn't a king at that time, and he got kind of pulled into this battle his brothers were fighting. They're part of this army, the army of Israel, and the army of Israel's on this hill, the Philistine army's on this hill. And remember, they sent their giant down, a giant named Goliath, to come defy the ranks of Israel. Said, hey, tell you what, someone fights me and defeats me, you guys win, but if I win, we eat you for breakfast. That was the challenge every morning, and nobody on the Israelite side would dare to face down Goliath, because he was like 9 feet tall and had hair coming out of his eyeballs and all kinds of weird. He was just a specimen, right? So everyone's intimidated by him, including the king of Israel, who was 1.5 feet taller than everybody else in Israel, but still like 1.5 feet shorter than Goliath. So he's hiding out in his tent going, oh, I don't want to fight him, I don't want to fight him. So you have all these guys giving into dissipation, in a sense, because their calling is dissipating. They're giving into mediocrity. David shows up and goes, yeah, no, this is not working for me. This giant's got to go. And he steps in the name of the God of Israel, and bam, knocks this giant on his butt and cuts his head off. And it's this great kid's story. Awesome. So we always skip the head part in Sunday school. You notice that? They used to have this thing called flannel graph where you'd stick things on. I never had the beheaded giant. I never saw that growing up. Which is, so I would have been like, this is the coolest story ever. Like, the sling is neat and everything, but okay. So anyways, we're gonna fast forward now through David's life. And David, I don't know exactly how much time has passed, but King Saul is dead. He's given into mediocrity so much so that he's trying to, again, go after what he wants, and he's trying to protect his throne. He ends up being dethroned. He's out of the picture, and little David is now King David. He's sitting in Saul's chair. So he's sitting in the very tent that Saul was sitting in when Saul was afraid to fight his battles. Now we're going to ask ourselves, how did David get here, and what does that mean for us, okay? Because whenever this happens, years later, in the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, like everybody knows that, spring, Spring, well, better go into war. So David sent Joab, this is his commander-in-chief, sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. And they destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David stayed in Jerusalem. Is this the same kid? The same kid that showed up and went, hey, if you're not going to fight the battle, I'll fight the battles. And then after that, they fought a lot of battles that were amazing, written down in Scripture. They defeated the Philistines. They defeated all kinds of different nations. David's growing in popularity. Thousands of people are vanquished, and Israel's growing. The borders are growing. And now we see David kind of sitting back, like some of us do, and he's giving in to dissipation. Not out of fear, like Saul, but out of a sense of maybe entitlement. Like, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, wore the t-shirt out, threw out the t-shirt. This is long gone. I've fought my battles. You know what? It's time for someone else to fight the battles for me. I've worked hard. I've entitled myself. And I get, you know what? This happens in church too. Been there, done that, don't want to do it anymore. This is where he's at. Now, here's the deal. What happens when the zeal of your calling, the focus of your life begins to dissipate? What are you setting yourself up for? You can see it in David's life. I'll show you what it is. Here's what I want you to catch today. When the zeal of our calling dissipates, the seduction of our weakness intensifies. This is why you don't want 14 teenagers hanging out around a 7-Eleven at 2 in the morning with nothing else to do and no point. They'll find something to do. And we never quite outgrow this, especially when we've been there, done that, worked hard, it's someone else's turn. But then what are we filling our plates with? What are we doing? So, in the moment, God's will can seem so tiring, so limiting. But watch what David set himself up for by not going to war. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace while his troops are in the trenches, fighting the battles, preparing for the next thing. Instead of giving them the pep talk even, going down to the battle lines and doing what a king should be doing, he's got nothing better to do. Why can't he sleep? Because he didn't earn partly, right? He's walking around going, well, like, you've been there, you've done that, I've done that too. When you're like, there's just nothing giving you focus. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. And the man said, oh, she's Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. And then David sent messengers to get her, and she came to him, and he slept with her. And then she went back home, and then the woman conceived and sent word to David saying, I'm pregnant. Man. This is the kid. This is the giant slayer. This is the kid with no fear. We're going to talk about blind spots next week when it comes to decision making. But his failed decision was long before he saw the woman and decided to do something about it. He should have been at war. He should have been in there like a dirty shirt going after the thing that God had put in front of him to do. Because it was not being there that presented him with this temptation that he would never have had if he'd been doing what God called him to do. Again, in the moment, God's will can seem so limiting. God's just ruining my fun. I got to this straight and narrow, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do this. But I tell you what, the morning after, moving from dissipation to debauchery, the morning after that happens, the prison that is created by consequences around your life, the secrecy, the cover-up, and he actually ended up murdering her husband to cover it up, and then had to cover that up and cover up and cover. The prison created by circumstances and by consequences is far more confining than God's will would have ever been if he had just followed him. And hey, some of you are living proof of this. All of us are living proof of this. There are things we've done, we regret. We said, I wish I'd listened to my conscience. I wish I knew God didn't want me to do this, and I did it anyway, and now I'm stuck with this thing going forward, these consequences. Not that a child is a thing, and not that a child is a punishment, but you understand, now there's all kinds of things that David has to do that he didn't do before. Right? This is really big. How often have you found yourself asking, how could I have been so stupid? I knew it. I knew I should have gone to war. I knew as soon as I saw her there on the roof, I should have turned around and I shouldn't have done that. When he asked his servant, I shouldn't have asked my servant to find out who she was. I shouldn't have, once I found out who she was, I shouldn't have said, go get her. When she came to see me, I shouldn't have slept. Just think of all the decisions that followed from that one bit of dissipation, where his calling dissipated, his zeal dissipated, and the seduction intensified, because anything will rush in to fill the void that God's will is supposed to occupy. This is what happens in our lives. You know, what we want or what we think we want isn't what we really, really want. Some of you have a song going through your head right now. That's okay. What you want, what you really, really want. What I'm saying is that's that line, just that line in that song. That is truth. What you want, what you really, really want, and that song is really confusing. But what you think you want, you know this, often isn't what you really, really want. Because you think you want this, and then you grab that and you get it, and it doesn't do it for you. And you go, that's weird. I thought I wanted that. So then you find out, again, what else do I want? And you go after that. Because again, society tells you, if you don't get what you really, really want, or you don't get what you want, you're not going to be happy. So then you're like, well, then what do I want? Well, maybe I want this. Well, maybe I want her. Maybe I want that. Maybe I want that. And we're pursuing this endless carrot that's always dangling a little too far out of reach to ever satisfy. What do we really, really want? When I was in high school, there was a girl, and I had it bad for this girl. Like, I was head over heels. We'll call her Sally. That's not her name. But man, Sally was the package. Sally was beautiful. She was smart. She was witty. She had me at hello, and she didn't even know she had me. She didn't want to have me, but I was like, wow, this is the person I want to be with. And she had a boyfriend, and so you know what you do when the girl that you want has a boyfriend? You become the guy friend, right? This is strategy, because then when the boyfriend is out of the picture, you're there. You are there to comfort her. And that's what happened. I actually became her friend, and then the boyfriend would be gone. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. And she'd lean on my shoulder, and I'd walk her through it, and then she'd go date someone else. I'm like, okay, next time. Like, I got to prove myself. And so over and over, I'm just like throwing myself, because I want Sally. I want to go out with Sally. It's her. Well, in grade 12, finally, this is like probably 2.5 years of this. Like, I was like laser focused for 2.5 years. Finally, someone wanted me. And she was amazing, and she was wholesome. Sally was not so wholesome. But this girl wanted me, and so I asked her out. She said yes. It was the greatest thing ever. I was like, I didn't think that could happen in my world, but okay. And so we went out, and we were dating, and we were cute, and it was great. And then Sally broke up with her boyfriend. And seeing me with someone else, made her think, maybe he's what I really, really want. And so she actually pulled me aside. I remember it because it was in a McDonald's in this like uncomfortably close booth thing. She pulled me aside and said, I have basically, in a nutshell, I have seen the light. I now know that you are what I'd like, and I would like to go out with you. If you'll just dump your girlfriend, we could be together. I had this weird moment where I looked at Sally and I realized, she's not what I really, really want. No, thank you. Fine then, right? And then I'm the enemy right away and all of this, right? Because now I've humiliated her and all this stuff. But it was the weirdest thing. Because for 2.5 years, I thought, this is what I really, really want. But it was only what I thought I wanted. It wasn't what I really, really wanted. And what I really, really wanted was a girl who was wholesome and who would care for me. And that's what I had. Now, what we think we want is fun. What we think we want is pleasure. What we think we want is comfort. What we think we want is money and popularity and stuff and the girl, whoever that might be, or the guy, or whatever. And we're willing to sacrifice all to get that thing, that thing that we want. But I'm telling you, it's not what you really, really want. What you really, really want, and a better question, isn't what do I want? What you really, really want is what you value. See, the better question isn't what do I want? The better question is what do I value? So let's back up to David. David's king. He's got a calling on his life like no other. He's got people waiting on him hand and foot. He's got a sense of community around him. He's got his commanders. He's got his top 30 guys that will literally do anything for him, these warriors. He's got respect. He's got his integrity. He's got his relationship with God. What does he value? That stuff. And he already has it. So when this lady walks out on the porch and he sees her there bathing, he thinks, that's what I want. No, you already have what you want. What do you value is a much better question. If I could get you guys to come help me with this stuff. How many of you are familiar with the envelope system for budgeting? How many of you have ever done that? Shauna and I have done that. Thanks, guys. Shauna and I have done that like early in our marriage. We got our finances got away on us. Thank you. And someone told us, cut up your credit cards and take your paycheck and put it into envelopes. Now, I don't know if you've seen this before, so I'm just going to like break it down for you. Okay, I got a few envelopes here. Perfect. Awesome. And what the idea is this. There are two categories. I should stand here. There are two categories of expenses in your world, right? There are the fixed expenses that don't change every month, that are like super, super important. And then there are discretionary expenses. In other words, you could say this is what you need, this is what you want. Now some of these, there's some needs over here maybe, but it's tricky because it's all about amount, right? And here's the thing. These expenses are like the foundation for these expenses. So for us, the number one thing we do with every paycheck is we give some away. Before we spend any money on ourselves, we give to God. We've set aside 10% at least, and we give to Manifest and other things. That's what we do, okay? That's non-negotiable. The next category, and this can be super simplified, is maybe your mortgage or your rent, okay? Another one would be the rest of the bills that you pay. And the idea is you do this first before you move to the discretionary income side of the equation, right? So over here, you might think, I have to eat. Yes, but how much and what? That's what's discretionary, right? And then the things like gas for the car, and we'll just say entertainment. Again, this is vastly simplified. But here's the concept. You never take money out of these envelopes to put into these envelopes. Ever. Ever. Because if you do, you can't pay rent, or you can't, this is really, really important, okay? So this is big. You don't, in fact, what you need to do, if necessary, if something would change here, is you take from here to put into these envelopes. So whatever's left, after doing all this, whatever's left, you can now divvy up into these envelopes. And here's the concept. Maybe I got $500 here, and I've got $150 here, and I've got $75 here. If I run out of gas before the end of the month, I don't borrow from here. I say it's got to then come from groceries or entertainment. So maybe I don't get to go to a movie this month, and I pull $20 out and I put it in the gas envelope, or I fill my car, right? And you can move things around here, but you don't mix it up. Now, here's how I'm going to apply this to the spiritual life, okay? Because this is what David was wrestling with. And I'm just going to give you a picture, and some of you, you're going to need to take a picture of this to kind of give you a picture for your life, okay? So these are the fixed expenses. These are what I was talking about before, the things that we value, okay? So, or the things that maybe we ought to value. Not everyone values integrity, but you should, okay? So the idea is that these are fixed expenses. These are the things that actually make for a meaningful life. Over here, you have all the things that are kind of discretionary. And not some of them are bad, not all of them are bad. I'm not saying they're bad things. But the idea is this. You never sacrifice these things to get these things, ever. You don't say, you know what, I'm just going to give up on my integrity so I can make a little extra cash. You don't do that. You will. That's how to make a decision with more regret, not fewer regrets. Right? You never say, you know what, I'm just going to sacrifice my family for some thrills. You never say, I'm not going to be generous. Instead, I'd rather be comfortable. I mean, you could, but you shouldn't. You really shouldn't do that. So this is a really important construct for us to grasp. A foolish person sacrifices the things they value for the things that they want, or the things they think they want. Because again, remember, what you really, really want is more of what you value, not more of what you crave. Is this sinking in? So here's what happened with David. He didn't understand until later the essence of temptation is choosing what you think you want over what you value. Do you understand that you can fill up these envelopes chock full? They can be stuffed full of currency, whatever that energy that is you're going to put in your life, your resources, all that stuff. It can be overflowing. You can be swimming in it over here. But if there's nothing in here, you will not ever be happy. Ever. This is so big to get. Now, here's another thing. A wise person will actually use these things to get more of those. In other words, I'm going to sacrifice my ego for my legacy. I'm going to sacrifice my comfort for my family. We've got it reversed. We wonder why we're paying for it. So when you're faced with a decision, what you got to ask yourself is, am I being asked to give up what I value for what I think I want? If you are, you're about to get ripped off. Now here's a different twist on it. Where does this one go? How many of you think this one goes over here? Put up your hand. It's not a trick. How many of you think it goes over here? Some of you don't know. That's okay. Do you know why? Because where this belongs, it actually depends on why you're doing it. What this means to you. If you take a job just so you can make more money and because it'll improve your image and it'll be a boost to your ego and you can live with more comfort, then it belongs over here. But if your job is something that actually feeds the things you value most, it belongs over here. Now, there might be seasons of your life where you're tempted to put it over here, and you're willing to sacrifice all of this for that, because you're going to put it here, right? This is the question. Now, something else, just so I know there's a lot of what if, yeah, but, and I hope this generates a lot of discussion. This is not the be-all, end-all, okay? There are 3 of these that you never, ever take from. So, you know how we can move things around here? We can also do some moving around here. So there are times when I say to Shauna, you know what? I don't think we should go on our date this week because the kids really need us. They're hurting, we need to be there. And we take a little bit from the marriage one, we put it into the family one. Or we say, guys, we're going to suck it up as a family this Christmas, right? And we're not going to get ourselves a bunch more stuff. We're going to actually give away our Christmas money and give it to some family that needs us, right? So you make sacrifices here. You can move stuff around. There are times when you don't have as much time for your friends because you got to invest in your marriage. But here's something that you never do. You never empty one of these for the sake of the others. And the second thing is you never have to sacrifice the God piece for like your health or to be generous, right? You don't go, you know what? For the betterment of my family, I'm going to give up my integrity. It doesn't work that way, right? And you go, you know what? I'm going to build a legacy for myself by screwing everyone over. I'm going to drop the love bit for a season just so we can. It doesn't work. Okay, so that you can move stuff around here, but not within limits. Now, we follow a Savior, Jesus, who came to this earth because he wants us to have more of what we value. He really does. He wants you to have life and have it to the full. Sometimes we think it's this stuff he's promising us. But really, he's promising us this stuff. But here's the crazy part. When Jesus came to this earth, he came as a man, and he was wrestling with the fact that within 24 hours in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was on his knees, writhing in prayer, wrestling with something. And you know what he said to God, and in essence, his Father? He said, you know what? I would really like to live, but not as I will, as you will. You know, we don't see it in English, but in the Greek, what it means is that will is want. It's the same word, will, want. Some of those Greek words have way more meaning than English words do. So he says, not what I want, what you want. And you know what Jesus did? He took his life on that cross, and he put it here as discretionary because he valued you and me. That's the sacrifice he made. He took everything that he valued, his whole life, and he put it here, and he gave it up. Again, remember, you give up stuff here to get more stuff here. He gave up his life because you are in this category for him. And then he says, follow me. For the sake of a lost world. He's asking us to place our lives in the category of discretion, or that's at his disposal to spend so that we can reach more and more hurting and lost people. And then he says, I know it's counterintuitive, but when you put your life over here, you actually get this stuff. If you seek first God's kingdom and you give yourself to that, all of this will be added to you as well. He actually says that. It's awesome. Which would not work if you weren't real. So, the question is, now you're probably wrestling. Some of you might be going, oh, dang, I wanted ego, and so I sacrificed my health so that I could feel better about myself. Or I sacrificed family for the sake of thrills. Or back and forth, you're going, what you need to know is Jesus died to pay for that, to forgive all that. And the others of you, you're faced with a decision right now, and you're going, what should I choose? What should I choose? Well, what are you being asked to do? Are you being asked to sacrifice this for that? Don't do it. Don't do it. Right? I don't know what you're wrestling with. What I do know is that God's will always leads us into more of what we value. That's what he's trying to do. So whatever decision you're trying to live with or trying to wrestle through right now, you will have fewer regrets if you understand what's at stake. Put him first and say, God, help me to choose the things that I value or that I should value instead of just going after what I really, really want or what I think I really, really want. Because the more you live in this zone, the more you realize, now this is what I really, really want. Let's pray.